Hello everyone and welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about Sovereign Fall of Wormwood. I know the box says Wormwood. This is a prototype, but we're going to be talking about the game Sovereign Fall of Wormwood that is on Kickstarter right now. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Sovereign Fall of Wormwood game that I just recently got in a prototype for, and I just wanted to talk about it and give you guys my thoughts and opinions a little bit about this system in a quick, hopefully less than 10-minute segment. If you were thinking about backing this game, hopefully this video helps you guys kind of make a decision in regards to maybe some of the pledge levels or some of the type of games you might like. Because I'll give you my quick impression for it. But to let you know first off how this game works, let's talk about it. So this is a asymmetrical faction deck game. So you are going to have one of these decks. Now the base game I believe says it comes with 6 decks. There are expansions to talk about getting additional 4 more decks. I'll talk about that at the end of the video in terms of my opinion, if that might be something worth getting. But basically, you're going to choose a faction, and these factions are completely asymmetrical, and they all play a little bit differently because they all have not only different cards in them, but they all have a unique leader and a citadel ability that they can, well, the ability is kind of the same, but you have a unique leader that you are going to take advantage of throughout the game as you play. Now, this game is a dueling game. You can play it 2-player, but it is up to 3 to 4 players. I have played this multiplayers at 3 count. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to play it at 4, but I can tell you my experience of playing a 2-player or 3-player through this game. But effectively, what your goal is, are you trying to capture these echo cards? Each player is going to have 20 of these echo cards throughout their decks, and they're trying to score them so they can win. The first player to score 10 of these cards will be the victor, and we'll talk about the few ways that that will happen. But the way this game works is you're going to be building out different types of units and citadels, forging different types of contraptions in your forge as you try to build out your army and eventually attack your opponents, trying to steal their echoes as well as trying to protect your echoes. So let's talk about how that core system works, and then we can kind of get into the nitty-gritty. So as I said, you have your deck of cards, you have your citadel and your leader. From there, you have the opportunity to play some cards in your hand down into your forge. So to do that, you'll play a card face down, and this card is going to need some charge time, some amount of time for it to resolve, and those are indicated by the number in the bottom left corner. So this one says 4. So I'll place that down there, and I take one of my talents. There are 2 different types of cards, tokens. You've got talents and drones, but these are double-sided. And we'll talk about the differences here. And I'm going to place a talent on the 1 slot. Now, at the beginning of my next round, I'm going to progress this talent around the back side of my card. You can see these are kind of dual ability because you can have the tokens referenced on the back. And as soon as it reaches 4, I have the ability to move this card to my deployed section. Now, there are lanes in this game, which means you're going to be playing this card to one of your 2 lanes, either my citadel or my faction leader. And basically, that is to create a defense for my abilities here in case my opponent wants to attack me. Now, why would my opponent want to attack one of my lanes? Well, depending on how they're going to try to win the game, your opponents, they can try to target cards that are in your hands, or they can try to target cards that are in your forge. What do I mean by that? Well, when I place cards down in my forge to, prep them for future turns, this is one way that I can try to score those echo cards that I showed you earlier. These echo cards have a charge of 2, so it's going to take at minimum a turn for me to get them to go around. But if my opponent decides to think that I am maybe charging some echoes, they can attack my citadel and see what I have in my forge based on how much attack power they eventually attacked with. And if they were correct and guessed my forge, my echo in my forge, they would take that card and score it. Alternatively, though, if they attack my faction, based on the attack power of the unit they use to attack me, they get to choose a random card from my hand, and if one of those cards that they choose happens to be an echo, they will also score those. If there was no echoes, for example, if neither of these cards were echoes, I would have to discard that to my scrap. So there's still some availability or some knowledge you can gain from attacking my faction, and alternatively, if they were to attack my citadel and they saw a non-echo card, at least they have an idea of potentially some of the cards that might be coming up future, so they can make some gameplay decisions revolving around that. So this game, you are going to be playing different types of units, creating these kind of lanes, protecting your bases, and then using these units to attack your opponent's bases, where you're going to calculate their attack power and their defense against also their health. Now, there is a very interesting secondary game going on here. So when you deploy your units from your forge, you don't just put them out here with full health. You have to use your available drones to do so. But these drones are not the easiest to come by. Now, I should say that based on per faction. Every faction is a little different in terms of how they're going to want to play. I am playing the Myrian Dominion, who was the faction I played the most with in my play tests here. And they had an interesting setup going with making my units strong. We had a lot of big mechs and soldiers, but I had a hard time finding additional health points without figuring out ways to use my faction to convert the talent abilities over to drones in the game. So I really like that mini game going on of utilizing your talents, because you get 2 talents around, and then figuring out a way to, one, spend them into your forge, and also converting them back into drones, so that you can, when you deploy your mechs, you can put them onto them as health points, because that's the only way that they're going to survive any sort of combat. So that's the rough idea of this game. Now, what can I say about it? First off, there's a lot of games that I could say that this reminds me of. The most common one that I've heard people talking about is Netrunner, and that's because the lane combat system, as well as attacking several different types of nodes, I can appreciate that. Netrunner is an incredible game. I love playing it. But there are other games that I've played, like Summoner's War, that this reminded me of, because of the asymmetrical deck packs that you can buy. I really like that. Now, one of the things I think is really cool about this game, as just a pick up and get going game, one, it's easy to just learn the system. It's not very complex at all. And I like that each of these decks offers a unique experience within it to enjoy the game. Now, there are alternative ways as well when you get a little bit more advanced, where you can deck build and try to do some alternative changes to your decks, which I think is really cool. One of the ways they said to do it would be to pick a deck and choose a leader. And you'll notice in the bottom corner of all the leader's cards, there is an icon that represents that leader. Now, I believe the rule book said, I could check, I'm pretty sure it says that you will choose 15 cards from your leader's deck. So you're gonna have to go through and pick 15 cards that have that similar logo, and then you can choose 15 cards outside of their deck to kind of customize it, to make it your own, to kind of make a unique deck playing system as you go into these more like advanced systems. I think that's super cool. It offers a lot more complex variability with this game and gives a lot more options. Now, talking about the pledge levels in terms of getting alternative decks, yes, it's always more expensive getting different types of decks, but what I like about what Sovereign Fall of Wormwood is bringing to the table here is that it's offering a way for you to integrate the expansions very easily and seamlessly into the entire system, and it's just able to plug and play. It's not going to require you to, learn the base game before you can integrate the expansions. It's all going to be able to flow in easily because they're all just more content of what you already have, giving you more replayability and extending the life that this game could have in your collection. So hopefully that was a quick rundown of the game. I've had a great time with it. The prototype's been super sweet. I'm enjoying playing it with my friends. It's a game that we can pop in and play for about an hour, hour and a half, more like an hour and a half, I would say, depending on the skill level of all the players. But I would definitely recommend checking out. I'll have the link of the Kickstarter down in the description down below. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. My name is Brian. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you very soon.